here is strictly my view, and I have no business relationships with any of the things I'm about to show you here, or any of the companies. At the end of this, I'll put in some links as an example. Steve Koenig, who is referenced from CTA, I actually had the opportunity to interview him to talk about some of those statistics he gave. And I think that's indicative of this kind of special CES, because hardly anyone was there, and I was able to just jump in line, and I was like the third person to interview him. And this picture is also kind of indicative. This was as I was going home. It was Thursday, probably about 6 o'clock, and you can see there's hardly anyone around. So that was pretty cool situation. So I split my what I'm going to show today into 4 categories, and loosely titled sustainability, health tech, mobility, and better tools. And these videos, well, they're the images right here, but they are images that will be eventually video interviews. I interviewed most of the companies that you'll see here, and they're anywhere from 2-minute to maybe 10-minute interviews talking about what these particular companies are doing. So with that, we'll start with sustainability. And these are some images that we'll look at now in a little more depth. Whoops, the first one is this company, and I know Tom and I happened to converge on them. I think they're in the one of the Eureka Hall type places in the sands there. And it's really cool. It's a husband-wife team that are really passionate about the environment. They founded this company. They're in Kelowna, British Columbia. And their idea is, how can you make showering more efficient? And they have a circular shower, and I was real confused. What does that mean? I've heard of the circular economy, but when they say circular shower, they actually mean recycling the water up to 5 times and increase the flow of it too. So you get a better shower because it's flowing a little faster. But the idea is you can use a lot less water. They're saying up to 80%. Now, of course, I can imagine that some people might take a little bit longer shower with this, but I think it will allow for a better shower and save some water. And you can see they have things like UV treatment in there to kill the bacteria, and they have other filtration to make sure that it is clean, so you can use it multiple times. And of course, it has to be connected. But along those lines, another company called Hydraloop, they're taking the same principle, but instead of doing it on a per shower basis, they're doing it on a per household basis. So effectively what they're creating is kind of this decentralized water treatment plant. It really starts to change the game when you think about how a city or a region might manage their water, because now suddenly, if you're recycling that water, do you need to build another dam? Can you take that money that maybe you would have spent on a dam and repipe houses? Because this one is a little more extensive than just redoing a shower. Here you're talking about repiping a house. But in a lot of places, like at Flint, Michigan, where you have old pipes that could have lead in them or so forth, you might be able to get a double or triple whammy from something like this in terms of improving efficiency and use of water. And that's especially important in a place like California, as we know. Tom alluded to this. GAF, those are the guys who had the viewfinders from the 70s. Material science, that sort of thing, was always part of their DNA. And Timberline Solar, I believe, is the name of the subsidiary that actually is based in San Jose. They're manufacturing these things in San Jose. And the roof, if my cursor is hopefully going over it, the solar part of the roof is right here. It blends right in. But as importantly, the roofers, the craft, are just standard roofing people who can assemble this stuff. So you don't need to necessarily be a specialized solar installer to actually put the roof on. And it's very durable. We jumped on it while I was at the trade show booth. This one is an interesting one. It's Piana Technology. Piana is a 439-year-old Italian textile firm. And I think this is a subsidiary of it. And they have created this textile that is recyclable. And not only that, they can do sensing within the mattress. So you can kind of get an idea of how your comfort level it is and that sort of thing. And actually, it's a connected mattress. They're coming out with their new product in a few months. But They told me that 18 million mattresses a year end up in landfill. So that's kind of a scary statistic. Orbisk is as a product really for restaurants to more efficiently use the food, their ingredients, so they're not throwing them off to the waste and causing methane and those sorts of gases. So it uses some sort of machine vision to see what the hot dog, not hot dog, or whatever, as they say in Silicon Valley, but you get an idea of how much you're wasting. And they claim that just this waste savings will pay for their service alone because you're now no longer overbuying inventory. And speaking of food and plant-based food, SK has investment in a couple of companies. One of them is this meatless farm, and then the other one is Brave Robot. And I was on my way to the John Deere exhibit, and I ran across these guys, and I had one of these ice cream sandwiches, and it was terrific. You wouldn't know it wasn't ice cream, but it's animal-free and lactose-free, and of course they're touting the benefits to the environment from this approach. Reencle is an interesting company from South Korea. Apparently, there's some mandate for composting, and so they have a method for doing this electronically. Whoa, I'm going without me. Where you, I believe you put in your food waste, and it has some mechanism to turn that food waste into something that's basically nutritious soil within 24 hours. And again, this is something that has been done in Korea now, South Korea, now it's coming here. This one is very interesting from France, Urban Canopee. And it is kind of a pop-up tree, if you will. The idea is not having enough trees, warms up a city. And they claim that, if you pop these around a city in parking lots or wherever, you could reduce the temperature by 2.5 degrees in a city. And what that means is with this product, you could, you don't have to dig a hole in a concrete sidewalk or in a parking lot. You can just pop these on there. They have water tanks. They're connected, of course, so you know when to water them and how they're doing. And they've got this little kind of flexible, I don't know how you describe it. It's almost like a tent structure, and that pops up, and then these certain kinds of trees just grow along that, and you create this canopy and you can connect them together. The nice thing is I called it the fungible tree because you literally can move it if you need to. I think we're moving on to Healthtech. We are. So the first product is something that I look pretty serious there, and that's because they were checking my heart rate through a smartphone app. They were measuring the blood flow, I think, under my skin. And this is very interesting because it looks like they can do this eventually for blood oxygen levels and so forth. The idea is that this will integrate with a telemedicine app so your doctor can directly measure what you're doing. The patient really doesn't have to do anything as far as a wearable, anything like that, other than just look in the camera and you can see, you can tell where you're supposed to aim and that sort of thing. That was from Quantiq. And back to France, and that Quantiq, I think, was from France, but I'm going to try this product, Hypnoledge. And the idea here is it was developed by a couple psychologists in France, I think 3 of them, and they use hypnotherapy. And they're using this approach to get people in kind of this flow state. And their first application of it is to learn French. And apparently it works. So remains to be seen. I look forward to trying that. Hopefully next time I can give my presentation in French. This was one where you're just walking around and people see they have a camera because I roll around this camera. And this guy, the CEO of this company, came up to me and said, "You got to give us a listen. You got to give us a listen." I was pretty tired. It was late on CES Unveiled, I believe. And it was this little device that it doesn't fit in the ear or anything like that, but it allows you to, I think it amplifies ambient noise so you can hear those conversations, but it also will take Bluetooth, and I think it's bone conduction or something. And literally I could hear both voices I was hearing. It was pretty high quality. And speaking of non-invasive, something that I think could also be very useful, especially in those areas where maybe you don't have a dentist nearby, or maybe people don't really want to go to the dentist, but this would allow you to track. They're using this in South Korea, where you can take a picture of the phone. And again, all these things, I don't say all of them, but a lot of them use things like artificial intelligence or machine learning, computer vision, and machine learning to identify that, hey, there might be a problem with these gums here or something. It's time for you to come into the dentist. But again, it gives a connection to the dentist. So this isn't something that replaces the dentist, but it augments what the dentist can do. And more importantly, it gives you that kind of continual view of what the health looks like, just like you could with what we looked at earlier with the heartbeat and oxygen levels. Which, while we're on the topic of teeth, this one is another one. When my toothbrush finally dies, I think I'm going to try this because they claim it's a 10-second toothbrush, and that 10 seconds will be as effective as any regular toothbrush. And part of the reason is it's angled exactly right, the 45 degrees that you're supposed to have it. I know I never do, but this is a little kind of Y thing. It's almost like a retainer or something. You put it on your mouth, wait 5 seconds, it does the bottom, flip it up to the top, it does the top. And it's got a little squeezer thing here where you can use their toothpaste or their toothpaste, a little applicator, so you get the right amount of toothpaste. And they have some other options with the new one that for cleaning and whitening, I believe. And again, I have to go back to the interview to see exactly what she said. Literally, I probably have hours and hours of footage to go through. This one, I was getting kind of tired by this point at CES, and I ran a class across SleepScore Labs. And sleep has been very precious to me the last couple of years because I read that book, Why We Sleep. And it's important. It's the most important thing we can do for long-term health, I think. It gave me a great excuse for why I need to sleep, which I've always enjoyed. And in this case, they have a smartphone app. This SleepScore Labs is based in Carlsbad, and they study sleep. And at this point, I think she's a doctor who's lying on the bed, and they're actually measuring her. I believe there's smartphone apps around there somewhere, but they have a little smartphone app, which I downloaded, and I've kind of been measuring my sleep. I think it uses sonic frequencies and then measures the back reflection. And that's what this graph is showing. So I was interviewing the director of the lab, and we had a very interesting conversation about it. And he gave me some recommendations on what to do. YouCount is an interesting one. Again, they've been focusing, this is going to be an FDA approved type product, I think, in the next year or so. It's using some kind of marker. I can't quite remember how you actually get the marker, what you have to do if you have to spit on it or what, and you put it in this little device there, and it'll tell you what's going on. And of course, it's connected and all that stuff. It actually might be urine tests based on what I'm reading there. This AT-Sense from Korea, again, this is very interesting if you want to monitor your heart and understand if there's arrhythmia problems. And that will, again, all this stuff's connected, but it's something that your physician could give to you. You could take home, just live your life for a couple of weeks. And it's, like a little Band-Aid, a little bit bigger with the sensor there, but it gives you a much more accurate representation of what's going on. And so that's very exciting because you're not looking at some sort of thing where you're all connected up with a bunch of wires. And that whole idea of non-invasiveness, I think, is so important. And this is something that I've been following for a couple of years. Stanford had done some research. They've been researching this in Japan. This guy from Israel in the US, he had a reason to come up with this. And the idea is it uses sensors that you'd find from smartphones, so low-cost sensors, to actually look at the flow of urine as it crosses, and then it's kind of a tuned spectrometer, if you will, and they can grab signatures of various things like kidney stones, if you're developing kidney stones, or urinary tract infections, and if you're hydrated enough. And this is really, really important for the elderly. Back to Joseph's comments about aging, where people, according to what they were saying, and I believe it, people in rest homes and so forth sometimes can have problems that are related to just not being hydrated. And this will help detect that you're not. And there's some unique properties to this, like they actually can fingerprint a person by their urine. So, you don't, it's totally hands-free, right? You don't have to pull out an app or anything like that to have this monitoring. Probably the most exciting thing about it is he's looking at $100 retail price when this finally goes to market. The first kind of trials are at a university in London, where they'll be trying it. And I believe it's a senior type home in conjunction with this college. And it could be a real difference maker, I believe, for keeping people healthy, because it's just the start. And that's similar, Somalytics, which makes these microcapacitors. I don't know what you call them, but they're very, very tiny microcapacitors. I interviewed Barbara, who's the CEO, a couple of months ago, and their first applications are in glasses for eye tracking. But she said they could also use it for other things, like integrating it into a bath mat or into a kitchen mat. So when a person stands on it, you can start to get an idea, and that's what this graph is representing. Are they putting too much weight on one leg or too much on the other? Are they balanced or not? And again, it's the type of thing where by monitoring it continuously, you start to see a pattern. Maybe you can cut off at the pass some kind of health issue that would have gone unnoticed. And that's a good question on how to keep the, I think this is on the toilet, the smart toilet, how to keep it clean and how often does it need adjustment. I don't think that it needs adjustment. The cleaning, I think you can use regular product, but it's a good question as to whether, there's some kind of warning that comes on. It says time to clean your toilet or something, or do a better job cleaning it. But again, I look forward to reviewing the interview I did with Guy, who's the CEO and founder, because I forget a lot of details. This guy was on Shark Tank. Nizar, he's a pretty interesting guy. He was an automobile engineer for however many years, decades. And he came up with this exercise device, which unfortunately you can't see it. It says it at his feet there. Well, I guess it's over here. And so one of the sharks invested in him in December. And so I just thought it was kind of neat. I think it was also important because the best way to keep your health up is if you can stay in shape. And so that's what he was showing. And of course, it's connected and there's a service with it because it has to be these days, right? Or else you can't talk about this kind of stuff, it seems. So mobility, and I'm going to use that term in a couple different ways. Yes, and exactly right what Edward says about they're using carbon nanotubes. They're from the University of, this is Somalytics. They're from the University of Washington, kind of a spinoff. And Barbara, I know her from an eye tracking company that she was involved with before this. And so I think it's very exciting because now you can start to do things maybe for diagnostics of kids, because you can track their eyes, you can learn a lot about what's going on with them. So let's talk about mobility. This one, and I know Tom saw this, I think we've met up at this point, but when I first saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is, why lazy people, right? This little robot travels around and it jumps up and down here and it'll even pull out drinks from a special refrigerator. It can go to shelves and stuff. But who it's helping are people who want to have mobility but no longer can, or maybe they're temporarily immobile, and it makes a huge difference. And this market, goes beyond the home, but it could even be in hospitals where there just aren't enough caregivers to help when someone, they need that glass of water or something. This could be the difference, and it can make a big difference. So the founder has a great backstory of how why he was motivated to do this. And that's a great question on stairs. I'm not certain they figured out how to handle stairs yet, but I think the reality is most of the people they're serving are on single levels. And again, I think, you know, they're trying to crawl before they walk, so to speak. Now, this shows you how distorted I am. The first thing I thought of when I saw this guy is I thought, oh my gosh, someone's made a human autonomous or something. And but what he's a interactive tactical group, maps buildings. They go into buildings and they map them, and that's what this setup is. It's got LiDAR and all kinds of LiDAR and cameras, and so that was. I look forward to that interview. This one is from Japan, and it's GMS is the name of the company, and it's a for-benefit company. I can't remember the exact term, but a number of major corporations have funded it to basically do good things in the world, and it's focusing on helping taxi drivers who otherwise would have to rent their taxi. It is focused on helping them own. The problem is a lot of these taxi drivers don't have the money to buy, and they don't have credit established, so they can't get bank loans. So they're continuously having to rent vehicles. And so the business model really isn't very good. These guys have this IoT device that basically you can remotely turn off the car. So if they don't make their payment, you turn it off. So and of course, you know where it is because of GPS and all that stuff. So effectively what it's allowed is the banks to feel secure that they can loan money and get paid back. And it turns out the default rates are very low. This company, even though it's in Japan, their first market was in the Philippines. They're in Indonesia. So I found that one very interesting. And that was in Showstoppers, Tom, I think in the same Japanese area where we were. This guy, Delmonico's Frank was his name, the founder. He is creating a peer-to-peer electric vehicle charging system. So the idea is, you know, you've got your charger. He built a blockchain that, based on the Polkadot blockchain, that fits into the CPU of the charger. And every time someone comes up to pay to charge their car, it gets accounted for in the blockchain, and you would get paid. So the idea is that in France, anyhow, apparently there's some really high charging rates. And it's just a couple centralized companies. So he's creating a decentralized charging network, and totally transparent. That's his objective. And speaking of transportation and how to do it better, how to do it cheaper, maybe, or bringing different models, business models into the transportation business. This guy, En Route, is an Israel-based company, and it's they haven't come to the United States yet, but they're in places like Germany, Spain, Israel, of course. And what they do is they partner with merchants to get people into their shops. So the merchant may pay for the ride. And of course, you have to buy something or and you can't just buy it and take it back. So it allows you to kind of get credits for shopping. It's kind of an interesting idea. Trigo is an interesting one from, it's a Polish founder. He's from Poland, and but they're international. It's really going to be a vehicle as a service. I believe it's a 2-passenger car. One of the things that makes it unique is that it when it's a normal operation, it's got this wider wheelbase. When there's a lot of traffic, it can actually lane split and go between lanes, and the wheels narrow up. So it becomes like a motorcycle. And if you park, instead of parking parallel park, you can park vertical. 90 degrees to the curb. And the other thing that makes it unique is that he is looking at a model where he doesn't sell the cars, but he would rent them. And further, I think he's going to the point where he would deliver the car remotely to the passenger, so the passenger doesn't have to search for it. So a lot of ambitious goals there. Unfortunately, the car was caught in customs, so I didn't see it in person. But that's one I look forward to editing that video. Drone Deck is another one that, again, these guys are making a compartment similar to what Joseph showed, except for this one is for drones to drop goods. And they have a whole system for how you recover them and so forth. They have a Indiana town that is going to be their first big trial. So better tools. And again, some of these you could say these are mobility things or other categories. But first one, Tom touched upon this, the company's Spooky Action. Young guy, he's only a few years out of school, as I recall. They've got a drone, they'll work with other drones. As Tom said, it can be tethered with electricity. The thing that I think would really be interesting is, right now it's for temporary emergency situations, but it seems to me that there's no reason that this could be a long-term solution. And it seems like it'd be a lot cheaper than putting up a tower in some rural areas. Well, it'd be cheaper than putting up a tower in a rural area. It would be a lot easier to justify this than a tower. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Of course, there's FAA issues with that sort of thing and probably FCC. John Deere, I'll come back to John Deere in a moment, another point in this video, but Tom, again, already touched on the autonomous part. The thing that he was showing here was their see and spray is what it's called, where, as Tom pointed out, it's looking using machine vision to identify weed or not weed, plant or not plant, make sure they're applying the right either pesticide or herbicide, whatever it is, to the right area or the right fertilizer. The thing that it was amazing though, is these arms go out something like 130 feet. So I don't know if that's 130 feet total or if it's 130 on each side. Either way, I can't believe they could do that. That's amazing. Plus have this technology work, and there's got to be a bunch of movement as they go. But it's pretty cool demo. The Evo Cargo, these guys, a couple of guys from Russia started this. Of course, it's an international company, but it's basically, again, they're focused on the supply chain. They've only been around a few years, but these vehicles are for pallets and container type things in shipping yards, just moving them around. Of course, they're electric. They have battery or hydrogen option. This is not a cab for people. It's just a cab for their electronics because it is autonomous. And it's not remote control. These guys, autonomy, I guess is the way you said it. They, again, another company that was founded only a few years ago. They've got this little robot that drives around, but they focused on closed environments. So instead of the sidewalk robots you see that are on public sidewalks, they're focused just on closed spaces. So like if you're in the airport and you're hungry, this will deliver your meal, and it's got refrigeration or heating or whatever. But also, I think they've also used it in fast food restaurants. So instead of the big drive-through line, this will deliver to where you're parked. So I think that has some interesting application. And like I said, it's a fairly young company. RVO, they have a bicycle called the Super Strata. And before I go to that, one of the cool things that this CES was the section called e-mobility. So all your electric scooters, electric bikes, and I actually have some video of me riding around. It was just such a joy to ride on one of these electric bikes. But the Super Strata, why I bring this into the tool section and not mobility, is that this was done kind of just as an experiment. They put it out as a crowdsourced type thing. They're a carbon printing, 3D printing company that does carbon fiber. And they're based in Milpitas. And I believe that's where these frames are. And these frames are custom made. And they're not that expensive for the non-electric. I think it's like $2,900, or maybe $3,000, I guess, for a custom frame that's fit to you, not just a general bike. This is fit to you. And so I think that's the important point about this is you've got this mass customization, if you will. It truly is that mass customization of the frame. And even the wheels, like these over here, the wheels can be are printed wheels. So that I think kind of points to the idea of where things could go, where you could actually have local printing to get the product you want. Tom already, I think he showed the Vuzix. These are AR glasses that, and you can see I superimposed what I saw from my camera looking through them. I have an interview with the founder, but this is, I don't know how many generations since their beginning, but they're getting lighter, they're getting higher resolution, and you can see the application. Like this would be maybe for a warehouse worker, and it's giving that person where they have to go, what aisle, what location, hands-free. And then Sapient X points to the idea of this conversational AI and using it as a host in a corporate situation, wherever. And finally, you may have seen this this was on Twitter and everything. This was the robot from Engineered Arts. It looks very realistic. In fact, they kind of have to take it back a notch so it's not too realistic. And I've got a great interview with her as well as her creator, Dr. Frankenstein. No, that wasn't his real name, but she actually hit me. So I think I kind of offended her, but it was kind of accidental brushing. It was kind of fun. So as much as I'll wrap up here, but as much as we've talked about technology and stuff, the thing that this next image kind of made me think about, if home is the heart, then CES is where the friends are. And in this next image, it was at a company called Homey, and they make a little smart hub. They're from Europe, and they're coming to the United States. But what was really special about this was I ran into an old friend, Jonathan Hurd, and so that was he's with Altman Vorandi. He also was the designer of Food Fight for the Atari. Fun fact. Way back in the 80s. And then I'm in the middle of interviewing the John Deere guy, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my friend Alan Hoops from Silver Star Communications. And I interrupted the interview, which was very unprofessional, but it was great to see him. He's an amazing provider of communication services in Wyoming and Idaho. And then finally, Tom and I kept running into each other, and Tom said, "Hey, why don't we talk about what we did?" Or maybe I suggested it. And here we are in the IEEE booth. And again, this video is online, so you can see things that maybe we didn't mention here. And then finally, Tom alluded to this in the beginning, the boring company. And it truly is a remarkable thing that they could bore these 2 tunnels for about I think it's $47 million. I think it was about 53 when they threw in the cars and everything. And, it's really like crawling. It's not what you would say is something that's sustainable right now, because there's a couple hundred people probably driving these cars. They're not even allowed to use full autopilot or whatever Elon Musk is calling it, but they're on the right track. So for instance, this Tesla has been outfitted with a wheelchair ramp, if you will, or a place to put a wheelchair. They are learning how to do this. And I have a video kind of taking you through the journey there. The big question, I suppose, will be, is this going to be just another boring trip, which means actually it's a success if it becomes just boring, or is it going to be an amusement park ride? And they are working on expanding this thing another 29 miles. It's basically going to go all the way around the strip up to downtown, all the way to the airport, to the Raiders Stadium, Allegiant Stadium. So it's if it succeeds, it will be something, I think. So that was my last slide. I do have, if you want, I have some links that other things that were mentioned earlier, and I can put those in the chat. I will stop sharing them.